welcome to What We Learned This Week, episode 25, right?
Sure.
Okay.
I like it.
Where it might not matter.
But we are gonna do it.
We are?
Yeah.
And talk about it?
That too.
I'm Chalene.
And I'm Liz.
Welcome. This week we have Liz talking to us, and I'm really excited because she mentioned a few things about it, and I'm really, really excited.
Well, I don't know how much deep insight I have to offer on it. It was more a funny story, I'll be honest. Yeah, negative thoughts. Negative. Well, more like negative talkings, negative speakings, negative.
Shazam.
Or shiitake mushrooms, as we say at our house.
Oh.
Yeah.
Food curses. I like it.
You like it?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you might appreciate that one.
We tried to come up with some in our family of like, instead of saying a swear word, let's be creative and say like, guacamole.
Ooh, yeah.
Or rotten peppers.
I like it.
But that's negativity. So.
It is. And the peppers could feel bad about it. And then my boys took it to the extreme, and that's what ended up coming of this. So.
Okay, so tell us.
So long and short, we're playing cards last Sunday. Meaning, not poker. I can't play those games. It's like 5 crown, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Super simple. And there was so much trash talking and negativity. Like, I could not even. By the middle of the game, I was like, this is ridiculous.
Oh, no.
Were they losing that particular round? I think actually I was losing. I was totally getting stomped on. And when I say negativity, I don't just mean like, oh, that's such a stupid card. Why did I have to? But it turns into like all the other talk, right? I always get all these cards. I always am the one left behind. Why does this always happen to me? And then it was trash talk too.
To each other?
Oh, yeah. Trash talk. And my kids are in junior high. My oldest is actually 9th now, but out here, he goes to the junior high still because the high schools are crowded, or they tried to do it for maturity purposes. I don't know what the deal is. I don't love it, but he's at the junior high still.
Okay.
Whatever. Okay. And apparently, so kind of popular in the junior high crowd, or at least for my son's friends right now, are some of the old popular phrases, to either cut others down or just
like the R word that we're not supposed to say.
Yeah. And we're just in a different time, and I really just have a hard time with that. Some of it, we could go on a whole nother conversation about this, right? Like when I was growing up, I don't want to say that this is a reason or excuse or is acceptable, but there was just a lot of naivete behind using it.
I think so. We didn't know, at least when I would use, for example, I don't want to be offensive, but I'll be like, that's so gay. In my mind, I didn't picture,
of course,
someone who was gay. I pictured, like when you say
it
cool.
Was stupid. It was another word for stupid.
Yeah.
But it's not okay.
No.
It's not okay.
It's not okay.
And we had to have a talk about it, and it wouldn't stop. And so my brain is like looking for ways to shift where this is going, because I want to spend time with my kids. And I did not realize how much this was kind of how they do things, right? How they joke. And we'd had a mini golf game over the summer that I kind of noticed some of this, a lot of competitiveness and comparison and just so much
kind of natural.
Yeah, super, right? Like, but I wanted it to be a teaching moment too. And I have a tendency sometimes, or at least in some of my early parenting, to harp on, I should say, the negative. Like, don't do this. Stop that.
This
is going to be a consequence.
Yes.
Right? We go there really quick. And this is more than just parenting stuff, I promise, for any of you listeners that are like, she's talking about her kids. That's my disclaimer. Yes, my kids. But it's a life lesson thing too, right? Because when you focus on the negative, that's what you're going to get. It is.
Right.
So one of my kids, this is what happens too when you parent longer or have other experiences. There's always one that's going to throw you for a loop. So I have a sweet, lovely, amazing, super, super talented, super gets it kind of kid, but he is a stinker. So if I do resort to some older style parenting cues of like, if you do this, then this is going to happen, he will straight up respond with, I don't care, go ahead, you can have my phone too, and whatever else you want to take away. Like, he does not care. It does not motivate him, and I can tell it's totally a reaction. And I've obviously, we could talk a whole nother thing about parenting, that I shouldn't let him talk to me like that or whatever. I disagree, because I want my kids to have a voice in this family. Okay.
I agree with that too.
Good. Awesome. So we've settled that. Now moving on. What I had to learn was sometimes we have to replace that with something to do instead. So I started giving them like fine. If you want to keep behaving this way, that's fine. Your consequence, though, will be you get to scrub the kitchen floor now or whatever. Yeah.
So much.
Instead of taking away their phone or taking away time with their friends or whatever, they have to do something to contribute and be a part of something differently.
So can I throw you for a loop really quick?
Yeah, throw me.
I took behavior modification classes and it got super confusing because that is actually called a positive consequence because you're giving a consequence and a negative consequence is when you're taking something away.
Yes.
And it was really confusing to think of it that way because you think of positive and negative as far as positive being
better,
happy, negative being sad.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But a positive consequence is just giving a consequence rather than taking one away or taking something away from them.
So did they find, though, that typically resulted in better behavior?
You have to...
does it just kind of depend on the situation?
It depends on every kid. Every kid's different. So there's a lot of times when you have to kind of experiment.
Yes. That's pretty much all parenting is, by the way.
Pretty much.
In case anybody didn't know out there, if you're worried about having kids, P.S., it's experimentation, so don't worry.
And a lot of behavioral therapy, for real.
Yeah.
There are behaviorists out there that believe everything that we do is based on behavior modification.
So true.
And if you, I don't know that everything, but you can really put a spin on it and look at everything as we're trained to do what we do.
No, I hold a deep, abiding belief in that for sure. Yeah. Just based on some of these experiences with my kids. I just didn't realize how much, put a lens on what's going on for them, I guess, having that time together. And I do have one that when he's feeling exceptionally negative, he ostracizes himself and reinforces this story that nobody cares or
like a self-flagellation kind of thing.
Oh my gosh. I'm not worthy or I just
because he wants reinforcement.
Yes. So he's my one that I cannot give negative consequences to either because then it just finishes telling him the story of negativity. So I have to give him I see that you're really, whatever, but you get to do this now to fix.
Wow, good for you for seeing that. That's awesome.
Well, I don't know. We'll find out 20 years later when they recap on what it was. Yeah, when they're still going to therapy because of their mom. What I decided in that particular setting, instead of to keep telling them to stop, it wasn't getting through, right? I think junior high kids, I'm not a teacher of junior high kids, but I have a friend who is. And I think they just kind of have a tendency, like anybody, maybe it's just a human characteristic. We just kind of get stuck sometimes, right? And we just loop it. We can't get out of the cycle. And they were there. Mm-hmm. So I thought it would be fun to do a bet. In our house. Anyways.
What was the reward?
$100.
Really?
Yeah, I went really high because my kids are super motivated. They all the time are like, you're too cheap, Mom. So if money's involved, they knew I was serious and I wanted it to be fun. I was like, I bet you cannot get through 1 week without negativity.
Oh boy.
Yeah. As I told Chalene this story the first time around, she's like, maybe you should have started small with 24 hours because there were some backfires. So the terms were no negativity. Mm-hmm. Okay. No criticism, no, I think that's the majority of it, right? Name calling. And so then this was great. I loved it. Sparked conversation, right? So, okay, well, what if one of my brothers is doing something on purpose to make me mad so that I lose the bet? I'm like, you can't do that. He'll have to pay me money if that. Okay. So you know what I mean? We were laying down the terms right there. Here's the rules. But I also said, but that means you're still responsible for your behavior in that though. I expect that you are just putting a different lens on what you say and how you say it. And they love, seriously, the rest of that game. And for almost 4 hours afterwards, maybe 3, every single thing was they couldn't say shut up either. That's a potty word in our house, right?
Okay.
I hate shut up. So then it was, will you please not talk a lot right now? They would have to, they were trying to clean it up so much. Mom, could you go and not say anything for a minute? It was funny. It was good times. The rest of the game, I could see that they would be frustrated and then they wouldn't talk. And I mean, it was super dramatic. And we went to a friend's afterwards for dinner and they had to keep doing it and told everybody about their bet. And they were so excited. $100 for my kids is like a year of allowance.
Right.
Or something. I don't know. So by the next day, not awesome. It totally backfired. My one kid that's like, I don't care. You can take my phone. It's like, I'm not doing the challenge anymore. This is stupid. You can take me out. Can I just back out of the challenge? I was like, no, you can't.
But you just lost.
Yeah, but you just lost because you're being negative. And he's like, see, this is so dumb. Why are we even doing this? So then we got to talk about that, right? Like, backfire. Maybe we should have stuck with 24 hours. And my other one that's very, very introspective. Mom, could I try again today? Could you lower the amount? I really want to do this, but I just didn't realize how quick it is, how easy it is for me to say you suck. So rather than like, I guess, going over all the details every day of how things went with the kids, there were two major components to this lesson, right?
Okay.
First one that we got to talk about was, holy cow, it's so hard not to be negative, right?
Yeah.
You get in that negative spin and everything is negative. And they recognize that. Like, if anything, I'm hoping that gave them something out of it. Like, I'm
sure it did.
I say a lot of negative
They can
things.
recognize it at least now.
Yeah, they'll see it differently. But then there was the other conversation we had to have, where sometimes it's really hard. Like, one of them came home and was like, this really was not awesome today. And he kept trying to not be negative, right? But I'm still upset about it. And I felt like I couldn't be because I wasn't allowed to be negative. I was like, okay, let's talk about that, right?
Yeah, because sometimes you have negative feelings and you don't want to stuff them down, right? So
right.
Did you figure out an appropriate way to be able to deal with those?
I think we tried, I don't know if it's the best tool. I think we just tried to separate the difference, right? So negativity and criticism as it's outwardly expressed, like against someone or something, was where I was trying to help them see, like, I was trying to help them see that difference. So when they're going around, I don't know, making fun of others or being silly, and even in their joking way, how much they can do it so over the top, right? Like, they can go so quickly to, that's just all it is. And then it escalates and escalates. And they're like seriously giant snowballs rolling down a mountain that cannot get out of it. That's all I could picture. They couldn't stop. They couldn't. It was already there. And we could keep going too with, maturity and development and blah, blah, blah. But the separation the distinction, I guess, that we made for the other kids when we had that conversation was the negativity when you're reflecting on something that you're dealing with personally, that's a little different, right? So he was having a rough day because, X, Y, Z.
Okay.
And it wasn't meant to be an outward criticism of everything, Alexander and the terrible, horrible, no good, very good day, right? Where everybody did everything wrong and it was all their fault. Just recognizing this is really sucky right now and I don't like it because of whatever. And I need to talk about it. Oh, okay. That's different, right?
Yeah.
I guess just mindfulness as to what it is. Is that teaching your kid mindfulness and your self-mindfulness,
I guess so.
Maybe?
Being in the moment and being willing to deal with it and feel it. And then moving on.
Yes.
Instead of just looping in that negative space.
Yeah, that negative spiral, right?
It really is.
Oh, man.
Because if one thing's bad, then something else is bad, and then everything's bad. And
I still go there, right? Like, I've been down that negative rabbit hole before.
So how could you cut it off before it starts? Then what would your advice be to your boys if they start going on I failed a test and I was late for this and now I'm going to be in trouble and all the teachers hate me? What would you say?
Oh gosh, I don't even know, actually. I still struggle with that one. I might have to glean off of you and your suggestion for, well, what are you feeling right now? Well, where do you feel it?
Yeah.
And let them have that experience and then...
And validate. It's okay to feel that way.
Yeah. I would be really overwhelmed and then move on. Right? Or, wow, it sounds like... have you read that book, I Don't Have to Make It All Better?
No, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, it was really helpful for me when the kids were a little younger. And it's funny how I was so much more active in some of my parenting when they were really little because that was like my duty. They're 4. They don't know any better. I must teach them.
Yes.
And somehow I let life I'm not as good at proactive or preventative or whatever parenting differently now because they're older. Because they're going to learn it from experiences sometimes too, right? And they need that. I can't be in there all the time giving the moral high ground on everything over them. I hate that. I don't want to be that. But then I forget to be proactive about it and remember that they still need that. So when they were younger though, and I read that book, it was so epic for turning around tantrums. Like, and it's funny. I think most people read that for like interaction with adults, and I did it for my 4-year-old.
Yeah.
But I did not handle tantrums well. They made me crazy. And I didn't want to be, the reactive one all the time in the tantrums. Mm-hmm. So we would get down to, okay, so what's upsetting? What is it? Well, my truck, I don't know. He took my truck from me and blah, 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 blah. I can see that made you really angry. Instant diffuse every time. Instant. Yes, it did. There's nothing to argue when I'm not telling him you shouldn't be angry. He took your truck. You should be angry. I can see you're angry. I'm not saying he's allowed to be angry. Yeah. I said, I see you're angry. How many times do we forget to say we see someone, right? Yeah. Isn't that all that is?
That's so
we're just being mindful of, I see you're upset. I see you're hurting. I see you're tired.
Which is what they were trying to show you.
Yeah.
Really? They just
Yes. Even though they were being crazy about it. And
so the interesting thing, Liz, is you say you're not intentional, but I really do think you are. And I'll put it in the phrase of the game.
I love Chalene. She always makes me feel better.
Okay. But I feel like you have to experience the bad in order to teach the opposite, right?
Yeah.
So middle school, childhood is this training ground.
Yes.
And you have to have those experiences. And so you were allowing them to have that negativity experience when you kind of noticed it was hitting a place of being out of control.
Yeah.
Then you took that opportunity and just a game. Like you didn't sit them down and say, we're going to have a family meeting. I need to talk about this.
We've done that before, by the way.
Right. And there's sometimes you need to do that. But
it's true.
You sat in those and you made it conversational and you made it fun and you made it something that they can recognize. Yeah. Because if you would have sat them down and talked to them about it, they would have rolled their eyes and maybe heard half of what you said. Yeah. But because you were playing and you were modeling it for them, you were actually probably doing it the best way.
Oh, gosh.
Catching it in the moment.
That's cool.
And they're going to remember that. I know they're going to remember that.
Totally.
Every time they're going to pick up that game, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember.
Remember when you bet us $100 to...
Yeah.
It was so cool I will admit, it was so cool how it overlapped into other little things. And so then we made it even a game of, not being negative, right? Yeah, this is, you are just, like they had to use all their words, right? You are just maybe not doing the best thing right now. And I'm going to go over here. Like they would say that when they were really pissed at their brother it was funny. But then, dang it, when that stuff backfires, because then they were like, well, what are you going to do for the bet, Mom? Because I can't pay you $100. And so my sweet, my third born, he's the one that I keep bringing into he is seriously so sweet. He is the helper and looks out for everybody, but you cross him and he is forget about it. And he's the one that's like, well, I'm not even going to try then. I don't even care. But his bet initially was, well, then I'll massage your feet. So sweet. But then I think I was harping on him for something, or I was getting mad at something. He looked at me and he's like, Mom, you didn't win either. Listen to you. And I was like, I got called out.
Well, so a couple things came to my mind. My son did something and everyone was like, good job. And I was like, okay, well, you did a good job, but I think you could work on this, this, and this, and this, right? It's like the teacher coming out of me.
Yeah.
So can you truly motivate someone by just bringing out all the good things that they did? How do you?
Yes.
You can?
I really believe
and
that.
And they'll find their own path improving?
100%.
Really?
Yes. I actually personally very much believe this, and I've watched my kids. They already know. You almost already know when you make a mistake. Because bottom line, the experiences and whatever it is that you're having is telling you about that mistake. Okay. They don't need me to verbally, I'm already catching myself up because I do think there are times where you might miss something. Like you might need some pointers, maybe.
Okay.
But on the whole, I think... Okay, so I'm going to use skiing as an example for a second.
All right.
I don't know how to ski very well, so I'm going off of my limited experience. I have a few tools, right? Pointers when I was first taught how to get down a mountain. So I do the same thing every time to get down the mountain. Some of it is very much experience. Oh, that doesn't work. If I move my ski like this, I'm going to flip, or I'm going to turn, or I'm going to plow into something, or I can't stop right. So... that is my own experience. I can keep going down the mountain and figure that out. But to improve and maybe get better, you might be spot on that. Because somebody who's better at skiing than me might say, if you do this one thing with your toe or this one thing with your knee, or if you throw your hip into it like this, you're going to get a different result here, here, and here. Right? So he's not telling me that it's a mistake. It's not calling out everything I'm doing wrong, because I'm not doing it wrong. I'm getting down the mountain. I'm fine. But if I want to have like a more successful experience or be able to take better, bigger runs, or I think of it with my I think we talked about this last week, maybe for a sec, or one episode past. I do it with my students.
Yeah.
I can't go around and tell them all their poses are wrong. Like, you are not in alignment. For them, they're in alignment the best they can in that moment.
Right.
So I just cue stuff to see if they can make it a little better.
You know, I have noticed that. Like in yoga classes, they're like, okay, put your knee a little bit to the right or something, you know, like that. And you make this gentle adjustment. You're like, oh.
Push your heel into your heel more.
I can feel it different.
Like you didn't have to even focus on your knee. By pushing into your heel, your knee aligned over your heel. And that can come from positive reinforcement. Same with the experience that I have with my kids or others. There's so much improvement that is gained by the positive things that they're doing. My one son came to me the other day, super interestingly enough, after, I don't know, he was having some experience in a class and someone was really annoying him, honestly. And he just wanted to talk about it. I could tell he was really struggling over, he could recognize that particular individual that he was struggling with had some type of maybe developmental delay, but it's also frustrating to him to have to. And he's allowed to talk about that. That's going to change the dynamic of your class when you have someone that's at a different place. It is. And he needed to talk about it, but he was talking about all the components of it. He recognized that the kid was at a different place. He didn't want to be angry that he was making certain comments that he felt were actually kind of rude. And he didn't understand why somebody wasn't correcting him. But he also didn't know, how do you correct somebody that might not understand? So he was asking all the questions, right? Wow. It's totally valid. But he's doing all of that on his own. That only, I don't know. I didn't need to correct that. I didn't need to tell him, well, you don't need to say that. He's developmentally delayed. Just ask questions. Yeah. Ask questions. Turn it to themselves. Like, I can see that you are so thoughtful to be thinking of all of this and want to talk about that since you came to me. Yeah, I guess so. I don't really, like, he did that on his own, and that was all positive. I think it's positive reinforcement.
Well, I had an interesting experience. My in-laws just stayed with us for the weekend. And my mother-in-law has a past of being critical, saying how she feels. And I don't think she even honestly realized she was doing it.
Okay.
And maybe she did, but she kind of would talk like as if she always knew the right way.
Oh,
kind of.
Yeah.
And I just remember one in particular, and this happened years ago, was I was getting married and I said, oh, I need to go get birth control before we get married. And she was like, you do not have to get birth control. You're choosing. And I was like, oh, okay.
No.
And this last weekend that she was with us, I noticed all of these positive comments that she was giving. Like I would come in and she'd be like, Emmy, I just noticed that you combed your hair really nice today. And every interaction she had with someone, she would give him a compliment. And my experience with her was so different. And she'd said something like, I've been working on being more positive and trying to pick things out. And I said, I've noticed. And she said, really? You have? And I was like, yes, serious? I have noticed that. She's like, I've been really working. And I was like, I know. And I am so proud of you. I'm not even doing that, but I noticed in her.
But it made a difference to you.
And I watched the reactions that my kids had with her, and they were wanting to hang out with her more.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
And it was such a beautiful example to me because I think I do get overly critical. I'll look at the 90% that they did right. I'll be like, okay, that's fine. And then the 10% they did wrong. I'll be like, but you didn't do this, or this, this.
Oh, dang. Right.
And I feel like I'm trying to teach them, right? Like when you clean the bathroom, wiping out the sink is really important.
Yeah. Or check your work.
So I need to figure out a different way of like, wow, I'm so impressed with how you did the mirror. I don't want to see any streaks.
Yeah.
And in the future, I want you to remember to wash the sink out because that's where people's spit goes, or something like that. Yeah. Or like a pointer rather than a criticism.
Or how do you think you can, one way I've done it in the past is, how do you think, what's going to be the best way to remember if there's something that you forgot? How do you think you can remember everything that you need to do on your list?
Yeah.
Or, does it help to write it all down or check your work? Like just things that help them think of some of those ways on their own. Oh, I think it would help me if you came over and walked through all the steps with me. Oh, I can do that. Let's do that together at the end. Or
wow, I'm so motivated now to go home and try this.
It makes me feel a lot lighter though too, because here's the other part of parenting that was like really hard to finish adjusting to is I didn't think I was allowed to feel the way I did either. Right?
Growing up?
Yeah. Well, growing up, part of it. And even though as a parent, like, as a parent, you're supposed to be some type of perfect model of whatever. And the whole point in modeling all of this is to teach them how to really navigate life, isn't it? So that means they're going to see that sometimes I'm going to be negative too, or I am going to do it imperfectly, or we are going to have to find a new way to adjust. But it helped me feel like I can have feelings in our relationship too. So when I'm correcting or frustrated or upset at a behavior or something that's going on, I'm allowed to feel that way as well. And it gave me a channel for that energy. Like I can focus it differently. I can say something to them too without it being a not great experience. In wrapping up, I think the biggest thing that kind of influenced some of this for me, just in general, the negative thoughts, the criticism, any of it, was when I started reading a couple of posts highlighting some of the things or ways that folks were influenced by the author Toni Morrison as she passed. And it might have been Oprah that talked about it or somebody else I follow. I actually can't remember because I started to see a repeat of it. But she had made a comment about her child and how the most important thing she started to realize in her parenting, does her child know without a doubt that that they were loved. And she started realizing that this came from her first interaction with her child every time she saw her first. And so she, instead of it being, did you comb your hair? Did you put on, you know what I mean? Your shirt doesn't match your shoes or whatever. Every time she saw her child for the first time, she'd make it, I'm so happy to see you. Eye contact, a hug, touch their cheek, hear them, see them. And then they'd talk about, oh, maybe you could comb your hair real quick before you leave. Or, if that came up. And she didn't even say all those words. It was the most simple quote. It was like, I just try to really see them first or something,
I love that.
Same, right? And I just want to do that in my life. Like not just the kids, everything. I think you bring up a really great point. How can and where does this maybe, show up in other places?
Yeah.
How can we really see what's going on?
And I think that would even work for my spouse as well.
Oh, gosh, right?
It's like I've heard before, people love having dogs because no matter what happened before you left, they're going to greet you at the door with a slobbery kiss.
Oh, yeah.
And happy to see you, wagging their tail, even if it's been 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And I think how happy I would be if I came home and someone was that excited to see me, like one of my humans. I think that would be
one of my humans. Oh, I
amazing.
Love that. Can we all just give each other that a little bit more? But especially in our closest relationships, and maybe it'll work very much like it did with your mother-in-law. That we want to be around each other more, and we just show up that little bit.
Yeah, feels so good.
It does feel good.
Yeah,
all the way around. It was nice to work on all that challenge together. So maybe this week, see what that looks like in your life.
Okay.
Not that you can't be negative, not that you can't have a moment, but where can can all of that just look and feel different? Make it a game. I would appreciate it if you would refrain from using your vocal cords right now instead of shut up. All right.
I'm going to leave this room for just a minute until you're done.
And
that's awesome.
I think that's about it.
Okay. Question of the week. Do you have a hiding place in your house when you want to be left alone?
Oh, yeah.
Where is it?
Right here.
Oh, your yoga room?
Yeah, my yoga room. The kids know where it is.
That's awesome.
What about you?
I don't really have a hiding place. I've hidden my closet a couple times, but I need to stash it with a few more snacks, I think.
Yeah. If you're going to hide in there. Pantry. What about your pantry? Will you hide in the pantry?
No, it's way too small.
I've done that before, but yeah, my pantry's smaller now too.
Yeah, I need a little bit of carpet, probably.
Yeah,
a little padding.
It's nice, right? Cozy, comfy seat or something. So it's not your bathroom. Like, who was that girl that would hide in her bathroom and her kids would like stick their fingers under the doors and she's like, I'm going to the bathroom, leave me alone.
That was me with my mom. We totally did that.
Oh, really? That's funny.
So, okay. Well, I hope you have a great week. And thanks, Liz, for sharing.
Thank you.
Yes, and keep on learning.
Because it does matter.
And so do you. You need to be closer.
More books.
Yeah. Oh, that was so much better.
My mouth was on the microphone.
There's that health and behavior book back there.
Oh, can we not pick that book up? That'd be great.
Why?
Because it means I'm in school. And I have to have like a life that reads books now.
Welcome to school. You have tests now. You can't watch TV without feeling guilty anymore.
Amen, sister. I'm already there.
That's what I hated about school. And then when we finally had a break, I was like, I can watch TV and not have guilt.
Seriously. And then I'm like, if I don't get all my homework done every single day before my kids come home, am I a bad person?
No.
Yeah, I'm already feeling it.
You're not a bad person.
Like, let me read health and behavior books before bed.
Sorry.
Lame. Are we keeping all this?
Just think of it as a self-help book that you're reading for fun.
Except that it's not fun and it's so boring.
It's because that's what their thoughts say.
And they're like
Your thoughts need to say, I'm learning this and it's so exciting and I'm going to be able to share it with other people.
You know what? It kind of segues right into our topic today.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.